notebooks out and you're writing, I knew there would be a lot of great nuggets for you. Alright, so we're gonna do just a quick, let you grab your snacks. We might just take the next hour and a half with you drinking to ladies. Hikes, don't be hikes. finding our DBEs, and I love it even with Terry and Sunny. I can sit and kind of bring some really crazy ideas, and they're like, go for it, do it. So all of the journey that I've had with them and being able to serve as NDOT's DB Supportive Services Consultant, they've always given us just that leeway and that freedom to do things that were maybe outside of the box, or think about this, or have you thought about that? And so I've always loved that Tracy's been such a champion for that. And sometimes we run into each other at the airport, and she'll give me some more ideas of something that's, matter of fact, I think that's one place we run into each other is in the airport. She lives at the airport. One day she was like, walk with me. And I'm like, oh, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I really want to get on that thing. She's like, I got to get my steps in. By the time I got back to the car, but it was amazing. So I just thank both of you for what you do in the community and how you support each and every one of us. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of now get more technical. Tracy Larkin, she became the director of NDOT this year, but many years with NDOT prior to that.
This is my 35th year with NDOT.
35 years. That was a I know I was super excited whenever I heard that she became the director of NDOT. So the Department of Transportation, she also was on the board of directors. Now you did retire in 2021 and then came back in 20, brought her back. So she has more, like she said, more than 30 years, now 35 years of extensive knowledge of the Department of Transportation's operations through administration, management, technical roles as well. She also brings a national perspective and has a deep understanding of the federal funding process, as well as proven leadership capability. All kinds of things that were a little bit beyond my knowledge. I'm not an engineer, but there's some of these other things. Y'all go and read it. It's very impressive. I was going to tell you that's very impressive. Multiple degrees and all the things. So a certified public manager, professional traffic operations engineer, holds a license as a registered professional engineer in Nevada. So that's the technical and all of the professional. But one of the things, again, like I said, getting to know her and just the demeanor that she has and the support that she has meant so much more to me than all the degrees and all the things because of the championing and the support for the program. So it's Miss Tracy. And then Angela. Angela Castro, she's our Deputy Chief Executive Officer for RTC of Southern Nevada. In her role, she works directly with the CEO, serving as the Chief of Staff and overseeing all strategic and public-facing initiatives that encompass public transportation, traffic management, roadway planning, and funding. She directs state and federal government affairs, public policy, purchasing, contracts, and the list goes on. I'm not done yet. Traditional and digital marketing, transit advertising, and it goes on and on and on. To say these ladies are busy is an understatement. Prior to joining the RTC, Ms. Castro held several important marketing and media positions within the Las Vegas Monorail, MGM, and all the things. And then prior to her 2022 promotion to Deputy CEO, she served as RTC's Chief Strategy, it's been a long day, a lot of talking, Policy and Marketing Officer. So these ladies, they know what they're doing, and I'm super, super impressed. We are going to, this is not a traditional panel. We have some prepared statements, some questions that we proposed to them earlier. They're just really going to share and have a conversation with us, share a little bit what's on the horizon, what's coming up. And so we're just going to let them just talk and flow and go from there. So we'll let whichever one wants to take it away.
Well, first of all, we're going to give Christy a round of applause. Don't make it fall you all the way to your chair. One of the things I want to point out, and I think we will have a conversation because we've worked very long, just about a decade on this particular growing the DB community and so on. But one of the things, as she's reading it, I think it's to understand, and as we were speaking before, and you were talking about being in construction, I started as a flagger in construction, and I made on there. I was a laborer in construction. And then because the guys did not like answering to a woman supervisor, they moved me into surveying. And that was kind of my breakthrough in there. So I was, I was pretty good at math and kind of went through, but when I started with the Department of Transportation, I was a tech trainee. You can't actually get any lower on the totem pole within NDOT down there, but there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that's the thing I really want to put out there. If you have the drive, if you have the vision and the passion, you can really go far. You need to be flexible. You're going to have some setbacks now and again. And sometimes you do literally need to let the water just flow off your back like a duck. Okay. move on, but you can do it. I mean, you really can do it. I wouldn't say I never, I did not believe I would become director. Although in my first interview, they said, what do you want to be? I said, director. But, it took a while to get there. But anyway, I just want to say it really, and a big part of it is also reaching out and working with others, forming your partnerships here. And then we're going to talk a little bit basically on how we started with the partnerships. I'll you speak a minute, then I'll hop back in.
I'm going to go back to how we started with the partnerships more than a decade ago, right? And so when you think about it, how many of you are DBEs in the room? Raise your hand. There's a lot of you. And so what I'm about to tell you is when I went on a listening tour and I first got into what the heck is a DBE and why is so many people angry at us? I did not understand it. And I lacked empathy and was uneducated. And I'm like, what is happening? Why do they hate government so much? And so I went on this journey, I want to say about 13 years ago. And I would get out and speak to people, minority business owners, small businesses. And when I asked them, what did you really think? It was real conversations is what we call it, real talk, right, Shonda? Real talk. And we were talking about the fuel revenue indexing, so indexing the gas tax to inflation, and we were going out and I was like, I gotta figure this out. I can't go ask people to vote on something not knowing what their challenges are and be like, that can't be my first conversation. So let me hold these smaller community group conversations. And I think I was gonna get walked out of the room. And so after my first real talk conversation with local small businesses, minority businesses, we had to reset. We had to do a serious reset because, and this is how I explained it, I understand your struggle. And it took some person, and I'm not gonna say who they are, to pull me aside and said, you do not understand. It's like getting offered a date to prom. What do? You get dressed up, you spend the money, you get your nails done, you're so excited about your date. You get all prepared, and then you get stood up. And time and again, when it comes to government contracting, we feel like we're getting stood up, right? And that to me has been my driving force in this position, has been how do we really help? Now, it's not a handout. We don't give handouts. In government, we don't give handouts. But what we do is give a handout, right? We give a handout. And so as we level set the conversation, as we talk about our partnerships, I first want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up today. And I want to look at you and say, you matter. Your voice does matter. In government, at least with the RTC and NDOT, if you are hitting a roadblock, where's Mallory? Mallory's right there. She's our director of purchasing government affairs. We do dual roles around here. And so when she came on, she runs the RISE program, she's head of DBEs, and it really was, look, we don't just say it, right? We don't just talk, but we also show up with action. And sometimes we're gonna get it wrong, but it's your responsibility to ask and ask your questions. Why? How come? What else can I be doing? What can I be doing differently? We genuinely care. And we have the responsibility as a taxpayer-funded organization to help you and give you a response. We have that responsibility, and I hold my team to the T in that. Everybody matters. You pay my salary, right? You're a tax-paying individual, and therefore I owe you a response, and our teams owe you a response. And so I just want to say, we're here. We're open for business. We want to help you, we want to work with you, and I understand some of the struggles, and I've spent more than a decade together with Tracy in trying to break down some of the barriers. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. But if we can break down additional barriers, we're here to listen. And then I just wanted to point that out. So Tracy, you can go from there.
She's hard to break through sometimes, so giving the Michael is pretty big win. One of the things we learned early on, I came down to Las Vegas to work, and I was actually had our office in the building there because we were running out of room. But we started to talk because we had a lot of, each side was doing some DBE outreach or workforce development outreach. And then we started talking, it's like, why are we both targeting the exact same people. We're isolating, so it's small groups here and there, like let's start joining forces so that we can show them, the opportunities across the board and not making them pick and choose which events to go to. The other thing I want to say is that, fast forward a little bit, is we started to realize we needed to manage expectations. And I don't mean limit expectations, I meant manage. To be honest with you and with ourselves, where are you? What do you need to do to move forward? How can we help you? What are the limiting factors, the barriers that are holding you back? And that is the point about, and I know Sunny and Terry could go back to our early days, and there were some struggles. We had a lot of partnerships and relationships to both establish and repair over the years. And it was very much to what Angela was saying before. Along the way, people felt very burned. So one of the really breakthroughs, and I'm very proud of this, is that when Christy came on board, and I know Sunny and Terry were listening, I said, God, I really wish we had some resource centers around. And Christy comes up and says, what would you think about if we really poured into a resource center? It's like, finally, someone gets it. But and part of it was working very closely with, it was RTC and a couple others at the time, is really starting to say, what is the best fit for you? Is it being a DBE? Is it being an SBE? Is it, or if you're a WBE, where in the valley, where can you best get the jobs? What's the best fit for your business and you? Because NDOT's work isn't for everybody. It's just not a good fit, but we can help find the fit that works for you. And also when they started to bring in where you can get some, legal counseling, get some advice. You could get some business advice. We can put the corners. I found a lot of people in small businesses know their trade. They're phenomenal at it. You get to the business part, not quite so much. What are the basic things? How do you actually bid different jobs? What kind of contingencies do you need to put in there? How do you protect yourself, when you go in? So I'm most proud of that, and RTC was front and center with us when we started it, and we've gone through. We finally to the point like we almost, we both bring logos, both of our logos to a place, and just if it's RTC is going to be next to it, and vice versa, because if you're healthy and growing, the valley is healthy and growing. It really is, it kind of states where we are in the economy and how we can diversify. I'm going to throw it back.
Well, I want to do a test question this afternoon. And you can't, if you have a contract with me, you can't answer this question, and I know there's a few in here that do, but does anybody know, do you guys even know what the RTC does? Who can I pick on? And I can't pick on you. I can't pick on you either. But does anybody know, does anybody want to take a shot at it? When you think of the RTC, I can't pick on, what do you think of? Someone's screaming at, go ahead.
Regional Transportation Center, you think of buses.
Right, but that's what most people first think of, right, when they think of the RTC. And I struggle with this, and I think we've done a poor job, and I've been in marketing my entire life, but I will say this, we connect every cornerstone of the valley, right? We touch every cornerstone, whether it's you came in today and did you drive, did you walk? What did you do? Because we impacted that, right? You're sitting at a light and you want to yell at it, we do that, right?
If you're that voted, just yell RTC.
Actually, we have a partnership with NDOT, but we can play with that, right? So just so everybody knows. Whether it's if you're a cyclist, the trail that you ride on, we also work on that. And so I want to make sure we level set of what is the RTC and what do we do. We are the Regional Transportation Commission. We are more than a bus company. But let's start with the bus company. We transport nearly 50 million passengers last year alone. And 80% of those 50 million passengers are getting to and from work. So the local small businesses in here, the restaurant workers, there's the direct, the indirect, and induced, 50 million passengers. So transportation does matter from the bus company. Now let's talk about how we connect the roads. We're like this large ATM, right? Where we receive, as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, we receive all federal funds, and then we distribute the federal funds to the local governments. So we don't build the projects. We work with the local governments, and thank you, local governments and the state. We work collaboratively, but we give them the money, they build the projects. We also are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, so we are responsible for the regional plan when it comes to roadway projects. Roadway plan, everything all directs to this regional transportation plan that we manage on behalf of the federal government. And lastly, we also have bike share. Am I missing anything, Mallory? There's a lot that we do. Oh, we are the traffic manager. Thank you, NDOT. We are the traffic manager, so we take NDOT's money and then we manage the traffic in Southern Nevada. I'm very creative. Creative financing is a good thing. But we take NDOT's money and we staff it and we manage traffic. We don't, now, the local governments fix, it's wonky. The local governments fix the actual hardware, but we do the traffic timing plans. But you will never hear, at least, I hope you never hear, that, oh, it's not us, it's them. Because it's our job to say, hold on, let me get back to you and give you the response or who to contact, right? It's never a dead end. That's something at the RTC that we work really hard to do, is how can we be the one-stop shop for even NDOT's issues? But then we call them when we bother them. So we do a lot more at the RTC than just manage buses and operate the buses, so thank you for that.
RTC Fast too as well?
Traffic management, yeah, RTC Fast is us, that's the traffic management center.
That's actually one of a great example of an early partnership between us, where actually NDOT did get together with the RTC. We do most of the funding, maintain the building, and then all the cities basically and the counties in the area ceded some control, so that every DMS sign, those signs you see over the ramp meters you see, all those type of traffic operations around them, it's seamless, so people don't know that they're going from Clark County to the city of Henderson to on there. But the point is when you get work together, you really can accomplish, and it has been a hidden strength that we've had literally across the nation. It is something that is talked in other states about, like with awe. Oh my God, how did you actually manage that to get people together? But coming back on.
Just by accident, there was no vision. It was, we don't want to do this, give it to the RTC. We don't want to do this, give it to the RTC. So just so you know, now we get to talk positively about it, but that's how it happened.
The messaging.
I agree. I know, but it's too far.
I can see you're so good at
I know. We don't want to do it, give it to the RTC. It's great.
But I think coming back to the resource end, but we'd also like to hear back from you the things that you need and on there. So we'll probably spend just a few minutes talking about a couple big projects coming in on there. That was one of the questions asked. So how about we talk a little bit about that, and then we'll open up to questions. Great. So most of you heard that we have a train coming in. So Bright Line is coming in. It actually was awarded a $3 billion grant earlier this year. And this past week, they gained another $2.5 billion in funding. It's a total of a $12 billion project. It is expected to break ground later on this spring, so mid-year, early fall. Now, I'm telling you, it's a positive part. There's still a lot of hoops to jump through, but it's real. As a person who's been working on, and also RTC for over a decade in some form on this, to see it come to fruition, the DBE goal on that is at just under 9%. Now, understand that 9% of $12 billion is a fair amount of money. And so there would be a lot of workforce development on that. There should be a lot of opportunities with that. That is expected to run about 4 years. They're hoping, the idea is to be open before the 2028 Olympics in LA. Obviously that'd be one hell of a way to open up your thing, gateway to the Olympics and back. Go watch the ice skating down there and then come up and gamble in Las Vegas. We love it. After that, we're also, one of the major projects we're working on is the Henderson Interchange. It's another one that will probably be awarded later on this year, but it's a design build, so construction probably won't start to 2026. But you're also looking at about a $550 million job that has a goal of 9.4%. Again, that's a fair amount of that, of a large dollar. We have a number of smaller ones around. Those are the major ones that really require different types of workers on there, different types. I think those are where the really main opportunities are. After that, you can start looking at Neon Phase 2. That's supposed to be coming on, looking at about 26, 27, I think construction like 27. So some of this sounds far off, but if any of you over the age of 25, life goes a little faster. And so, but it's a good sequence of some major jobs going around. And I know RTC, you have quite a bit with all the other agencies.
We do. So we right now, and Mallory's here to back me up on this. So we have Maryland Parkway, which it's now being split amongst two different procurements. There's a procurement in the city of Las Vegas and a procurement in Clark County. It's the Maryland Parkway Bus Rapid Transit Project. We also have received federal funding, and we're releasing our environmental analysis and planning study for Charleston. Alternatives analysis for Charleston. We have a lot of planning studies. And so if you are interested in partnering on our planning studies, there's a ton in the works and a whole lot more thanks to the federal programming. And there's additional funding as well. And everything is listed on our website. My suggestion is if you are not part of, is it NEOCA? Engine. If you're not part of Engine, to get with Mallory. And I know the RISE table had all of the information as well. That is where you can get all of our information about our projects. There's small projects, there's big projects, and Mallory's also here who can help provide more information. From the local governance perspective, I just asked them, what does that planning look like? There's about $2 billion worth of projects over the course of the next 10 years, about 600 projects programmed, right? Yep. And so there's a lot of projects, but I will say this, given the cost and the rising cost of doing business, you're gonna see that pipeline start to shrink. And so it's something that we will be talking about in the future, and I will get with Christy in programming, but long-term sustainable funding is a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for this community. So there's money that's programmed, but after the money is programmed and those projects, and I don't anticipate us being able to build all of those projects. And I say that because the rising cost of doing construction was roughly in around 20% the last time I checked. And so that, and everything that was projected out was based 20% less. So I just think that supply, demand, resources is going to be a challenge, and there's more conversations on that.
Definitely more conversations, and actually I think it's a little higher than 20% these days. It's a little closer to 30%. Just the buying power of the dollar is down. And as you spoke, I spoke about the sequencing of it. You're going to see basically all the agencies looking at a more sequencing of what goes up there. So starting to right size our projects to handle inflation, also to handle what's out there. But with that being said, when it goes on, there's still also the challenge of the workforce. I mean, I think there's an area here where some of you could really fill in and help with that. We are lacking big construction workers. We are lacking different firms and stuff around. So hopefully there's more opportunities. And one of the things we are looking at is really expanding the services that we do through the Resource Center, which Christy runs. So if there are specific things that you feel that you are really missing, like I really wish this, let us know what that is. We really do try, with Angela saying, the real talk on here, what is on there, if we hear it more than once, it's like we are listening. What is it that you need to help facilitate you moving on with your business and exploiting everything that you can, every opportunity? We're opening up for questions. So anybody? I'm gonna start in the back.
Yeah, so when you guys say you have like a 9.4% goal, what is your acceptable, actual to your goal? Since it's a goal and not a requirement. if that makes sense, you know, perfectly be happy.
When the DBE goal is set, that is what we are expecting. We encourage more, but that DBE goal is based on a number of factors, and I know that Terry and Blake go deep in depth on it, but you're gonna be looking at what projects can what portion of the jobs can actually be put out. Like, we're not gonna put that portion on the cost of a girder, because that's just stuff, that's just material. But we're looking at what's available, we're also looking at how much work is going around in the area. If people, what that does is means that when the contractor goes in, they have to show that if they are not meeting that goal, they have to show that they tried. They have to document and put in there, we call this person, we call this person, we call this person. But I'm also going to say it is incumbent on you to reach out also, and reach out to Christie's firm, reach out to see what's out there, because they don't come walking to you. That's the part where she's talking about, it's not a handout. We will help you in every possible way we can, but there is an expectation on your side that you are coming and saying, I'm here and willing to work. And that will force what I don't like really using the force, but that is what will grow the DBE participation.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I'm just concerned about the term, goal as like kind of a lofty term, you know, so I'm just curious how strict you even to the goal, you know?
You know, that's a good point of saying, I just don't know it as any other verbiage.
Requirement.
Tracy, may I piggyback on your question? And I've run this for Ms. Terry, so maybe Terry should answer this. There's only two ways to meet a goal that they set. Meet the goal or through good faith efforts. So there's only, Terry, am I right on that? Have I listened to your training? Woo-hoo! So that's something that, keep that in mind. Those are the only two ways. And just because it's a goal doesn't mean that NDOT's going to come back and change that. I believe Federal Highway is the only one that can change that once it's been set.
They have to approve us to change.
Yeah, does that help?
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll go to Diane first and then we'll come to you.
What I think has been really helpful is that NDOT, that you have your pay structure, the 2GB now, but where you check to make sure that we, the subcontractors, have been paid on time within the 10 days. And City of Henderson has a website that we can go and see when our generals have been paid, but not all the entities have that. And so if you're working for a general that maybe is having a tight time with money and they keep putting you off and putting you off, and then as a sub, then you're financing this job and you're a DBE and you're just barely making it by. Having more transparency on when our generals are being paid would be choice, because, you know, we're struggling, we're hustling to try to get paid, but, you don't know.
And I will say this, I've been in conversations with subs calling me directly and the DBE calling me directly saying, hey, I have to make payroll. I do not have the money, but I'm still waiting for this firm to pay me. I have called the general and with some nice words. Because I will tell you that that's something that really matters, right? When we choose to sign up and say, I'm gonna hold a DBE program, or when we choose to say we want you to participate or we need your help, we also have to understand what are we asking them from an insurance requirements? What are we asking them to read this 100-page contract that makes no sense? My poor team over here is looking at me and they're like, because what about the risk? What about the risk? My legal attorneys, when we're in a room, but to your point, I have made phone calls on behalf of the cost. So if you're a DBE in this room and you're waiting to get paid, if you're an RTC contractor, I would say sometimes have made phone calls to make sure you get paid.
I just wanted to vouch for her vocabulary.
One more, do you have a question? One more, you DBEs.
A question for both. From a sustainability approach of going green, I know the state of Nevada hasn't really taken their crackdown on anything like other states have in the country. Is there any internal plans between NDOT and RTC?
We have our plan, but I want to say this too. Our 2050 sustainability plan, at least for our buses and our fleet conversion, is a plan that we're aspiring for, but we have to have the resources to do it. And I'm just going to give you some context. A regular 40-foot compressed natural gas bus is about, and Mallory's here, it's about $650,000, $700,000. A hydrogen or battery electric bus is upwards of $1 million. That does not include the building of the infrastructure and the charging that's going to take place. And so at the RTC, here I am telling you, I don't have money for roads or transit, but I'm going to go invest $1 million per bus. What we are doing is we are competing, and we have been extremely successful to compete for federal funding. Extremely successful. We have whatever we have in our fleet. If it's a hydrogen bus, we only have right now 4. We have 4 battery electric buses and 2 hydrogen buses. As of right now, we'll have 12, maybe up to 15 for Maryland Parkway, the RT project. All of that, everything that you see on the sustainability front is federally funded. And we will continue to go after every grant to try to meet our 2050 needs.
We don't do that many buses. You will never see an NDOT bus, I'm pretty sure.
That's as borrowed by the RTC.
But RTC bus with a driver, that's us. But going back on to what you're saying, there is where we want to go and where we hope to go and the practical limits of actually fulfilling our day-to-day duties because of that. We are looking at transfer different parts of the fleet. We've looked at the EVs on there, but even as we look at putting EV infrastructure, once we get outside of the nucleus, we don't have the range, particularly for emergencies and so on. I have 42 different maintenance stations around the state, some are very rural areas. At this point, we also don't have the funding to put in a charging station in every single one. Right now, we don't even have the grid to get to many of the places. So there's a fundamental part of, there's the aspirational part, yes, make it greener. We do constantly look at, how we can actually facilitate. So one of the things we do actually fairly well, and we continue to invest in it. When you see, I call it TISMO, Traffic System Management and Operations, but all those EMS signs that you see, those gantries that you see, what we're looking to do there, and this is running the system more efficiently. That's one of the things that we do partner a lot with FAST on. If we can get traffic through, that you're not waiting, if we can clear up incidents faster, that all reduces the carbon footprint of actually just having people running their cars in the middle of the parkway. So that's something we've been doing for a lot of years. We're investing more in it because the other thing you said is it is more efficient and economical to invest in that than it is to try to build another lane. And we're still building lanes. Nevada is still a very fast growing state. Most of the western states are. So other things we do there, we're constantly looking at different materials. But there's also that point of when you look at the different materials, how long is it going to last? We want things that are going to last for 15 and 20 years and have a regular recycle. Now I know I'm starting to sound like the nerdy engineer. And frankly, I just say, embrace the goodness.
But you know what, this is a good segue. We're gonna segue for a moment. How many of you does anybody drive an electric vehicle in here? Oh, you're not paying gas tax. Anyone else? No. We'll take a donation at the end. That's another conversation we need to have as a community, right? There are as more fuel efficient vehicles come on the road, as more electric vehicles come on, they don't pay motor vehicle fuel tax. And motor vehicle fuel tax is what funds our roadways. And so if you are a transportation focused DBE we really need to have that conversation because the future of roadway funding needs to change. It's archaic, we have to modernize it, and I'm so happy that NDOT is working on this and leading this effort, and we get to partner.
And I know a lot of people don't realize, and this plays out there, I mean, there's some indexing, but the basic fuel tax that the state gets and the federal one, if you're paying $2 for a gallon of gas, and I'm just gonna use the number right now, you're paying 36 cents. If you're paying $5 for a gallon of gas, we get 36 cents. It does not change. There was some modifications with the indexing, but it doesn't matter. And of course, when the price goes up, people buy less gas because they're just not moving as much. So it's definitely a conversation that we're having statewide.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Angela and Tracy, for your time and coming here. So I'm Ganesh Kadam from PMCM Consulting Services. We provide engineering services and construction management services. So my question or point. So I know everywhere is for DBEs or all the training is about construction and mostly for the contractors. So most of the time services companies like us gets neglected. So even most of the training Christie put together, they are for the contractors. So we are DB certified in other states too. So we noticed that there is a training they put together, especially for services industry. So it will be great to see that kind of training. Also, another thing is we lack mentor POTG program here in our state. I know we have submitted our application to Christie for more than 2 years. She couldn't able to find it's hard for her because there is not much interest from the primes. But there is a good program also going in our neighboring state, Colorado, and the same engineering prime consultant, they are there, but they are providing that program there. So it will be great to see that program here too. So something you can.
I would say, Christy, this is already on your radar?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion.
We're gonna go here and go there. I gotta get on my steps sensitive.
Thanks for being here. We are a grading contractor, and most primes do their own grading. So when they're trying to meet the 9% DBE goal, if they don't meet it with the scopes of work that they are putting out for the primes to bid on, are they encouraged to perhaps take a scope of work that they would generally self-perform and let a DBE take a portion of that in order to meet the goal versus have a good faith effort?
The simple short answer is yes. The more complicated is figuring out what is being self-performed and what's going out. And I'm going to defer a little bit to Terry and some of the others who probably answer it more in depth. I do know when you're looking at contracts when they don't have a lot of things that you can really parcel out. We are looking at what are their forms. There's some things that, we're not gonna break up paving if they're doing that on there. But there are things, and that's a really good point to make. If there are things like grading or other things that could be done that isn't part of the whole, where it'd be hard to break it up. You can't break up paving in different firms. It's not a satisfactory answer to my ears, but it's the best I have right now.
No, but I'm just curious.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I understand a lot of your work because my very first job in college was an internship for working for Intermodal, and we dispersed money to NPOs.
So you understand that you get it and the politics behind it.
Yes, and how upset some people get when they have to buy America. But I also worked in surveying and engineering and transportation engineer. So I have a lot of experience doing some of the walk audits and the bike studies and feasibility studies. How would I get into that? I just got RISE certified, but I haven't really.
Major kudos to you for getting RISE certified. Good job there. Yeah, everybody give her a round of applause. I going to make this easy for you. I would like you to go talk to Mallory. I'm going to introduce you, I'm going to coordinate a meeting with my senior planning director, my MPO director, and his team. And then you can explain to them what it is that you do. All right, thanks. Any other questions? Okay.
Since you guys brought up the whole EV thing, I was just curious between the two of you, is there ever talks of like legislation changing on code? An EV vehicle on average is maybe 3 times the weight of a normal vehicle, before lighting's 9,000 pounds. And you're putting these vehicles into garages that are, their weight limits are for normal cars, right? So then you're having collapses, garage collapses and whatnot. Is there talks at some point of legislation changing on code for that?
I don't mean to make light of it, but I think we should sing because you're singing to the choir. No, you are absolutely correct on there. Those are the things that we're concerned about, particularly as you start getting into the truckings. The larger trucks and the mid-range trucks. They're very heavy. It is more wear and tear on the roadways. We're talking about battery, the investment into, what am I trying to say, battery supported EVs. But we'll say it.
Battery electric vehicles, but I would say this though, you are absolutely right for the heavier trucks, but for the vehicles, we're all learning. Let me just put it that way. We're all learning. In Nevada, we're slow adopters. We're not early adopters. We are slow adopters. And so I think as we begin to have more dialogue, when you talk about policy, right, there needs to be an education component behind it. And also, for me, the bigger risk is not policy around that. It's how do I get money from them because they're tearing out my roads, and can I charge them based, the one person that owns the EV vehicle, can I charge her based on the weight of her vehicle at DBE collection to collect some type of road fee to be able to build our roads and replace our roads if they're breaking up because of how heavy they are. So
I did research, I think I got to my 6th or 8th garage that's collapsed in the last couple of years.
yeah.
If you really look between the US and Canada, literally 6 garages.
So 6 garages, so I'm gonna say this. 66. Just six, yeah, so I wanna talk, I did say that we're slow adopters, right? We're not early adopters when it comes to policy. And so oftentimes, policy that's most successful is when it's been done in 10 other states, and it depends on who the legislative body is and who the governor is at the time. If I can find similar legislation that was adopted by a Republican or a Democrat, and depending on the assembly, I have to twist it any which way, but we are slow adopters. So 6, we're gonna have to wait. I need a little bit more, and I need other states to do it, and then we'll be able to do something, but that's good to know. We've had these types of conversations around trucks and freight.
Even over the years, we've learned that, even buses, when you load buses with people, that's why in most places when you go, you'll find a concrete apron in front of a bus stop, because it's just the weight of the people coming in and surrounding. But that's a good point about, I don't do a lot of vertical construction, but that's a good point to make, that, all the impacts that you have along the way of just suddenly changing you're changing the parameters of what the design was, how the design was put together.
Hi, my name is Carl Glassman Saint. I'm from Minneapolis.
We applaud you for coming that far just to hear us.
Thank you. It's just courage. But what I'd like to kind of let everyone know, I've been involved in light rail projects and bus rapid transit projects. These are not easy projects. And I would caution a lot of the attendees, when you're gonna be bidding this job, you're talking about a 4-year schedule. You're talking about $12 billion, 8+% of disadvantage business inclusion. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And you have to be careful to read your subcontracts, because there's gonna be a lot of uncertainty down the road. Cost escalation. We had interruptions with COVID. The job gets suspended. You know, what do? You know, these are things that you have to take in consideration. And I can tell you, of all of my projects that I have successfully completed, there was significant cost overruns, and sometimes I go to bed thinking, I said, man, these guys are gonna take me down. I'm gonna lose my business because the risk is out there. I said, maybe I should have gone to Las Vegas and put my money on the table. But, you know, and we all do that there. Every day we go to work. You're gambling. It's a gamble to turn in a proposal, because you don't know how that project is gonna turn out. So my word to everybody here, and trust me, it is very sincere. Be careful what you're biting off, because that biting off can bite you right out of business, because a lot of these guys that you're gonna be working for, they would not give any notion about trying to help you get out of what you're in. I mean, they'll give you a lot of lip service. The sister over here talking about, you know, pay schedules. Big issue for a contractor. That retainer, maybe that's your profit. So again, I can tell you, I got a lot of experience in this year. I've been in business 34 years. I've been doing light rail and bus rail projects, and people say, you know, well, why am I out here? Well, it's not only a look and learn, but to see how I can position myself to get a piece of the action and feel comfortable moving forward. And I know with Tracy and Angela, you know, you guys are gonna do the right thing. You know, you're gonna get a lot of, you know, issues put in front of you, and you wanna know how do you deal with it there. Your attorney is gonna be involved in it to kind of help move the process along. But finally, what I can say, it is a good project. It is gonna be a boon to this area, and not only to Los Angeles also. So it's gonna be a, you know, plus. So, you know, that's the only caution I got there, and I thank you for listening to my concerns. Thank you.
You bring up some really good points on there, and, you know, something we said before is we want to help you grow on there, but we also want to manage expectations. Understand if you have questions about how to bid, if you have questions on the risk, that is why we established the Resource Center. I mean, it's not a full, I'm not going to say it's a full 100% service. You're not going to get a free lawyer service for a year, but there is a lot of good resources there. There's a lot of information out there that we want to share with you and help with the estimate, or make sure that you consider different risk factors in that. Because there's nothing more exciting to start out thinking you've got a great job and then realize that perhaps you're in over your head. And maybe it's a little bit farther. So I don't want to inhibit, we're not here to clip wins, we're not by any means, we want to encourage you. What we also, to this point, is make sure that you're covered, and make sure that it's smart growth that you move forward with.
Do you have any other questions?
It seems like such a somber thought to leave on. Can we do something a little more light?
Okay, we have a question over here. I'm going to ask a question.
Well, since you asked for a lighter question, I was going to ask, you know, what are some ways that we can think innovatively about working with NDOT or working, how can we apply innovation to the work that's happening in transportation? From your perspective, like what are some things that you would like to see companies, or you'd encourage companies to present as ideas, or maybe some areas that you're already looking at?
This is a good one. So Tracy and I want to say 5 years ago, entered into the technology and innovation space pretty aggressively when everybody thought, autonomous vehicles were going to take over our lives and be the next thing. And how do we respond and react in big data? And I will say this about technology companies, and I can also say this about local small businesses. Big government, we don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. And so a lot of times we get, and I've met with hundreds of companies, and I'm like, you're wasting my time because you want me to come in and tell you what we need. You want me to come in and tell you, but honestly, if you give us the idea and tell us, hey, this is what we can do for you, and this is how we can solve this problem. We need people to solve our problems. But in order for us to understand that you know how to solve our problem, you have to come with the idea, right? But you also have to understand our business model. So you also need to do your homework as well. And so what I often get really upset about is these large companies, and I'm gonna just pick on the AT&T, the Verizons, when their business development people come in and they're like, we can do this for you. And I'm like, none of this makes sense because it's a canned presentation that you're selling to 60 other markets, and you just wasted an hour of my life that I'm never going to get back. And so I just ask that when you talk about innovation, when you talk about technology, when you talk about what you're doing, that you understand who you're pitching to. You understand that I am not just the bus company. You know that. Don't waste my time and just focus in on one area. I'm like, you literally get 5 minutes of my attention, if that, right, Tracy?
She's got a vocabulary for wasting an hour.
You get 5 minutes, and then after that, if you don't know what you're doing, I'm tuned out. I've moved on, right? And so when you talk about what best practices are, the first thing I'm going to say is we don't know what we need. And so if you're meeting with me to tell me, hey, what is it that you need? It doesn't really work that way, as opposed to, hey, this is what we think you need. This is how we think you can solve it. We know that funding may be a challenge, but this may be the creative way. Now you're going to hear us say, okay, let's talk about this. Right, so that's my advice.
And that really is a good point. Don't be afraid to pitch ideas or bring things to our attention, like, more transparency in the thing. A lot of you see things from a lens or perspective that is simply unfamiliar to some of us. It's not an unwillingness to entertain the idea or work with the idea or look into it. Sometimes we just don't understand what your need is. Now I see 2 more hands. That was too encouraging.
Okay, so, is it on?
Yes, it's
I have a question on NDOT. I know you guys tried to create a PLA to carve out an avenue for DBEs, open shop, non-union DBEs to participate in your projects. Are you guys gonna come back to that? Do you know? Because that's a roadblock for non-union contractors on these larger jobs.
Right now, it is, they're not gonna find them in many of our contracts right now. It doesn't mean they're not gonna be, there will still be some contracts, particularly with different federal dollars and the smaller ones. We did find exactly like that. There's some roadblocks. It's not necessarily a good thing for a DBE or an SBE. Also, in some areas, there was a lot of, and more, not necessarily in the Las Vegas area, there's other areas in the state where it was very difficult to get the appropriate labor, and I'm just saying in there because it just didn't exist in those areas. And so we were finding contractors were frustrated, the DBEs were frustrated, the workers were frustrated, and so we're finding many sectors. So it's a pause of looking at what really works. That doesn't mean you're not going to see them again, but we're trying to make sure that they're on the right projects.
One last question. Okay, from each. That's two
Keep
for
it
you.
positive, keep it positive.
You good? Keep it positive, I'm gonna end on a high note. She's gonna throw that ball at you.
No, I don't have a question, but I just want to talk about the transparency for payment for sub-consultant. RTC has a really excellent policy on that. So we have Prime on one of their project, and we need to pay our sub-consultant within 5 days after we receive a payment from the RTC.
You get
So,
gold
and-
stars. Good job, Alan.
Yeah. So we have to
Good way to
basically,
promote RTC.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we have to submit our, like, the payment receipts to the, with our invoices, like showing like we paid our sub-consultant in 5 days after we received payment from RTC. So that's the,
I think I got tired of being called.
thanks.
Okay. Is that it?
You guys have been a great.
I'm really man. Thank you, guys. So, and y'all are welcome to see her. We're just gonna kind of wrap up. I have just a few things, a couple of things I want to say. Tracy talked about the Henderson Interchange project. We do have an outreach event with, Hewitt is one of the, shortlist primes, I guess you can call them. There's 3 primes that are working, 3 teams that are working to bid on that. So that is February 27th. And that will actually be at their Tropicana office. We have a flyer in the check-in area. And one of the ways I want to encourage, you might say, I go to all of them, I've already been there and I've already done that. But you never know, there might be some changes from the first time. There might be something. I want to encourage you, go again. If it's something you want to work on that project, show up again and help each of these teams as they're putting together their bid packages for that project. So that's on the 27th. The other thing, so Nita and I were talking, and I think she already left, Mallory as well. We were kind of talking about some of these different ways and some new trainings. What are some things that we could do? So we have a training on March the 7th that will be virtual because we want you to use your computer. We're going to do a deep dive into Engine and into NDOT's B2G. Now, we want to make sure you know how to really use that as a great business development tool for you. Plan holders are on there. There's a lot of information, and I know we get a lot of questions. I know Tiffany gets a lot of questions. This person here, how do we contact them? Like, all the information is there, but you may not know how to really navigate that. So we're going to host that. That is on March the 7th. It will be, no. It is not. Yes, it is March the 7th. Check the calendar. There's way too many things going. The other thing we're going to talk about, Ganesh, kind of go with what you brought up. We're also going to do a deep dive into the contract compliance side. So how do we post the payments? How do we go in and look? So contract compliance is going to come and do that for us. That will also probably be a virtual training. So these are ones that we're just going to be hosting in our first quarter. We want to make sure that we're giving you every little tool. And again, how do you use these platforms that NDOT RTC invest lots of dollars in, and we don't want to hear, I don't know how to navigate it. So we want to be able to do that. So those are some things coming. The other thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned about NDOT, we don't do a lot of vertical, but you actually have for the, I don't know if it's the first time you're building the office buildings, NDOT's office building.
Well, we have a project that, yes.
Okay, that project. So hopefully you came today. We do have core construction, which is the CMAR on that. So there's a lot of unique opportunities within that project and scope of work. So connect with Holly. Holly, raise your hand over here. We did ask them, it worked out for them to be able to come because it does open up a little bit more for some of our, if you're not all in heavy highway or paving, maybe engineering, different things that you could work with them on that project. So make sure you connect with them on that. Okay, I really feel like we should sing or dance or something. I'm honestly too tired. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little too tired at this point to sing or dance. But I do want to say thank you guys so much. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Angela. I love these kind of conversations. And thank you for coming. A lot of times you may have leaders that they're not going to be open and transparent and willing to sit here and have a conversation because sometimes you're afraid of what might be asked. And so I thank you both for being willing to do that. Thank you for our Northern Nevada DBEs. We got a few of them in the room. I see Great Basin water right here.
I'm trying to explain to everybody, let you know that that's a slide, I don't know what you meant. So thank you for those DBEs that came down. They just wanted to get a taste of what we do here. Because we were talking about this, it's a little bit further up in that area. And then our gentleman, Carlos, thank you for coming the way that you did. Thank you to all of our partners, our supporters. But before you leave, a couple of things. On your table, there's a QR code in the front of the little 3x4 thing sitting there that says digital guide. You can scan that. There's a digital guide that recaps a little bit of what we talked about today, our speakers, links to them, capability statements of all of the DBEs that provided those to us. There's about 40, I think maybe 35, 40 DBEs capability statements. We're also going to be receiving presentations from the speakers or some of their handouts. I'm going to go back and upload that information. And so this digital guide will stay as a live link. You can, again, scan it. It will also be on the event website, so you can go back and get those documents. Again, this was a day for us to pour into you to think about how can I do business just a little bit differently? How can I work on the business, not just every day? We want to, someone told me this morning, not just make you shovel ready, but we want to make sure as a whole that you're ready. So when those opportunities come, you don't have to be scrambling and trying to figure out how I can get ready. I can say as a testament, sometimes an opportunity may come. And if I did not already have a team around or people that I could reach out to and say, okay, we're ready, let's go and do this, I would have missed out on those opportunities. And I'm so grateful that it took years, but those things will finally come through. And so again, just want to make sure that you guys are aware about that. And I'm also, as Tracy said, we want to make sure we're providing to you everything that we can. We can't do everything that we can do. We can't do it all, but what we can do. And so on the back of that is also an event feedback QR. Please be honest, please be transparent. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm a big girl, I can take it. And so I want to hear, because this is going to help. This was our goal, to see how this particular conference went. And I think so far from what we can tell, this is our first annual, and we're going to do this every year going forward. And so we want to hear, though, what we can do better and how we can pour into you each year. So with that, ladies, did I get everything? My staff in the back have handouts of the upcoming events, our calendar, our NCA events. We partner a lot with, again, our small business development program. Like I said, Tanita is teaching in NDOT on the NGM and B2G now coming up. So I just want to make sure I'm going through my entire mental brain. I think we got everything. Okay. Thank you all so much. Give a round of applause to the